Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session of SecPod webcast. Good morning, good evening. I'm Jaxir, your host. Through SecPod webcast, we bring you the latest happenings at SecPod and exciting stuff we work on to prevent cyber attacks for enterprise IT security teams globally. Today's session is security intelligence series episode, and the topic we are going to talk about today is take a sneak peek at critical vulnerabilities that the amazing team at SecPod has discovered and also provided support for during April to June this year. Once again, I'd like to remind everyone that recorded version of this webinar will be available on our Bright Talk channel and also on our YouTube channel. We'll be sending a recording to your email. And if you have any questions regarding the session, any questions for our team, please feel free to reach out to us through our website and we'll connect with you directly. With that, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. I have with me Virendra and Pooja from SecPod Security Intelligence Team. Hi, Viru. Hi, Pooja.
Hi, Jagsir.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for your time. They are here. Viru and Pooja are here to talk about what were the critical vulnerabilities, and also what we have done is created a report, and we're going to talk about that during this session. Towards the end of the session, we will have a Q&A. We'd love to hear from you, whatever questions you have for Virendra and Pooja. And please type them in your chat box just below your Bright Talk player, and we'll make sure that we answer them one by one. With that, so today's agenda that we have is we're going to talk about the quarterly vulnerability report that we released for April, May, June, a very quick overview of the report, and what can you expect out of this report. Um, then we're going to take a quick look at what were the critical vulnerabilities that were highlighted in this quarter, and Virendra and Pooja are going to talk more details of those vulnerabilities. Then we are also going to talk about stages of a cyber attack. How does a cyber attack happen, and what are the various stages involved? And towards the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A. With that, let me quickly give you. So this a lot of work went into this. What we usually do is we take a quick look back what we have been doing for last 3 months, and every quarter we come up with this report. In this quarter's report, we have highlighted what were the vulnerabilities that we discovered, what were the top affected vendors and products. We have also included top 10 critical vulnerabilities that any IT security team should be aware of, and then there are key insights and predictions into what you could expect to happen in coming months and coming quarters and the time ahead. Oh, wait. So what this report would have for you is we have delved deep um, into what happened for last 3 months, and then what we found, there were 5,478 vulnerabilities that were discovered in these 90 days, among which there were 7 zero-day vulnerabilities. And we're going to also talk a little bit about that during this session, and then you can find more details in the report. Of these vulnerabilities, there were 25 vulnerabilities that are widely exploited and are known to be targeted by attackers. Then there were 61 web browser vulnerabilities that you should be aware of, and what I'm going to do is give you a very quick look of what the report looks like. I'll just run you through. Okay, so this is what the report would look like when you get your copy. And you can easily request a copy going to our website, and all the everybody who registered for this webinar and are attending are going to get a free copy anyways. So we have all these details worked out. What were the vulnerabilities? What were the affected vendors, products, and what were the operating systems, any applications, even hardware that were affected, and critical vulnerabilities amongst all the vulnerabilities that were discovered. And we are also going to talk about 0 days and what malware are targeting those vulnerabilities. Then towards the end, we have a few predictions that we have come up with, what to expect in upcoming times. So a lot of insights IT security teams can gain out of this report. We have also discussed all the products, and yeah, so it's very easy to get a free copy of this report, and you can request that going to our website, www.secpod.com, and we are also going to send a copy of this report to you. Okay, coming back to the session. So that's about the report. Please feel free to submit a request or download your own copy. With that, I'll let Viru and Pooja talk about the quarterly vulnerabilities that were discovered and give you a lot more insights into what were those vulnerabilities and what was the impact of those vulnerabilities. Uh, Viru, Pooja, over to you. Viru?
Hi, can you hear me, Jaxir?
Yeah, I think
Okay, I think I
something.
was in mute. Yeah, I was in mute and talking. Okay, thank you
It
for the
happens.
thank you, Jaxir, for the introduction, and hello everyone. Today we'll try to understand Q2 critical network vulnerabilities. So let's try to understand what is meant by network vulnerabilities. So when we say network vulnerabilities, it means like any the vulnerabilities which can be exploited remotely with or without authentication. That is any application or server which listen on a specific port and can be accessed from a remote system or an endpoint. So to use example, Apache server or web server, cloud applications, SaaS applications. So in these application, if if we can reach from, we can exploit the vulnerability from the outside, then those are called network vulnerabilities. Let's try to understand due to critical network vulnerabilities, impact detection, and how to mitigate these vulnerabilities. Yeah. Nowadays, threat actors are targeting security products and companies. In the last quarter, critical vulnerabilities has been identified in the Sophos firewall security product. As a part of the Sophos bug bounty program, an external researcher found an authentication bypass vulnerability in user portal and web admin of Sophos firewall. This authentication bypass vulnerability can be escalated to remote code execution. The threat actor needs to send a specially crafted HTTP request to trigger the vulnerability. Once the threat actor controls the Sophos firewall, he can hide and easily get into the corporate network. So as mentioned, so Sophos firewall is a security product, hence threat actors can do lot of damages, and even after the damage, he can wipe out his traces as well. So that's one reason where these the security products and companies are being targeted. Sophos also mentioned that this vulnerability is being used in the target small set of specific organization in South Asia region. So there are some organization which this threat actors targeted. Are we safe from this vulnerability? If somebody asks this, then as per this, if Sophos firewall, there is an option called allow automatic installation of hotfixes. That is enabled by default. If some admin, if they disable due to various reasons, then the patches they need to install manually. Otherwise, Sophos is able to push those vulnerabilities, push those security fixes automatically. So if that option is not enabled, then you need to rethink of if you are using the Sophos firewall, you need to rethink on the security posture of Sophos firewall. Otherwise, and it's the attack of this Sophos attack on this the Sophos firewall with this vulnerability is quite simple and it's easy. And if the user or user portal or admin portal is listening outside world, then it is very dangerous. So it is highly considered to be this vulnerability need to be patched immediately. So next one is Confluence. This is the unauthenticated RCE vulnerability in the Confluence server and data center. What is Confluence? Confluence is a wiki-based collaboration platform that enables teams to interact and share information more effectively. In order to exploit this vulnerability, a remote attacker need to send a malicious HTTP request with an OGNL payload in the URI. So OGNL is nothing but Object Graph Navigation Language. It's a special language and is used for getting and setting the properties of Java object. And OGNL or injection is possible when there is a insufficient validation of user supplied data. The expression language interpreter attempts to interpret it, enabling the attackers to inject their own EL code. So in case of this vulnerability, which is CV 2022-26134, the RC attack is not very complex in nature. The attack can be executed just by sending a OGNL payload in the request URI. So and so this is also similar to the Sophos. This is also one of the critical vulnerability in the Confluence server. Next is it is also next is Atlassian Jira Seraph authentication bypass vulnerability. So this is also a product of Atlassian. So this is another critical vulnerability in the Atlassian product Jira and Jira Service Management. Jira and Jira Service Management are vulnerable to authentication bypass in web authentication framework, which is Jira Seraph. Remote unauthenticated attacker could exploit this vulnerability by sending a specially crafted request to bypass authentication and authorization requirements in web work action using an affected configuration. So what are products are affected for this product? Jira Core Server, Jira Software, and Jira Software Data Centers. These are the products which is used in these products. Jira Seraph framework is being used. So that's why they are vulnerable to this vulnerability. So next critical vulnerabilities in the WSO2 product it has various product, which is various products are affected, which is unrestricted arbitrary file upload. This is a fourth critical vulnerability. So what happens when a product allows unrestricted arbitrary file upload? So that's so if a product allows unrestricted arbitrary file upload, the threat actor can upload the malicious file on the server. Example, web shell, he can upload a web shell. He can execute a system commands or cron jobs. He can deploy a backdoor and various things threat actor can do. Using web shell, attacker can execute various things. Most of the cases, uh, uh, whenever there is a file upload vulnerability, threat actor will first try to upload the web shell. That way, he can execute easily. He can execute any commands or any code or deploy various other backdoors easily. This vulnerability is exploited in the wild since April 2022, and this does not require any user interaction or administrative privileges. So what all products from WSO2 are affected by this vulnerability? So one is API, the WSO2 API manager, identity server analytics, identity server key manager, enterprise integrator, open banking, AM and KM. So all these products are affected by this vulnerability. So to mitigate this vulnerability, vendor has released various fixes for each product, and also they have released a workaround whenever there is not possible to fix the apply the security fixes. All of the above four critical vulnerabilities led to remote code execution. All the four vulnerabilities which I talked from Sophos, Atlassian Jira, Atlassian both the products, and WSO2. All these vulnerabilities are lead lead to remote code execution and have a CVSS score of 9.8. The POC and sufficient information about vulnerabilities are public domain. Threat actors have developed a full-fledged exploit for these and part of various famous exploit kits. Saner now has a capability to detect these vulnerabilities in the entire networks, which helps security admins to scan the network and find are they systems are vulnerable. If any of these products are publicly accessible, when I say publicly accessible means if it is facing to the internet where anybody can just access these products, in that case consider yourself as compromised and start doing the investigation. As a thumb rule, consider the application is compromised if it is widely used, application is accessible publicly, POC or exploit is available publicly, no security defense like WAF, Web Application Firewall, or IPS, into the intrusion prevention system, and application don't require any authentication to exploit this vulnerability. So in the above four cases or four CVs, it matches all of these. If the application is facing to the internet, consider yourself as consider the application is already being compromised, and then start doing the investigation. So these are the things which last quarter we encountered critical network vulnerabilities. So that's all from my side. Over to you, Pooja.
Yes, thank you, Viru. As Viru mentioned, we saw all these vulnerabilities were remote code executions. Though this quarter we have not seen a Log4j or Spring4 shell, we have seen a lot of remote code execution vulnerabilities, and many of these are or have known to be under active exploitation. So now we'll be just looking at the client side vulnerabilities. So the first is a Windows NFS RCE. All the Windows servers that are out there, starting from 2008 R2 to the latest server, which is Windows Server 2022, was known to be affected. Right now, as of today, there is enough POC that is available publicly, and generally we know that servers are machines that are not patched regularly, mainly because it might lead to other challenges, which is why it is very easy to exploit this vulnerability. Windows Network File System Remote Code Execution, which is the 2022-26937. This is the CVE ID. Windows uses this NFS. It is not a default feature that is present in servers, but it can be enabled, and it uses this to share. To communicate with non-Windows file shares like Unix machines. So this is the first critical vulnerability. Next, we would be moving to Google Chrome. If you were to go through our report, which Jagsi just mentioned, you would see that the most exploited or most vulnerable products are or vendors are Microsoft and Google. So I think that would again we would see in these slides too that it is these products which do have critical vulnerabilities with the score of 9.8. This is the third 0 day that has happened in Google Chrome. I think all of us are like familiar with Google Chrome. A lot of us use it on a day-to-day basis, and we've been seeing a lot of 0 day vulnerabilities being discovered in Google Chrome. This is one that came up in the last quarter. All that an attacker needs to do to exploit this vulnerability is to forward a crafted web page to a victim through mail or any other means. If you have vulnerable version installed, the attacker can gain access to whatever your browser has access to. For example, they would get access to your camera, microphone, browser history, your saved passwords. And attacker also has browser privileges. So they can actually go ahead and modify these as well. And to know which are the products that are actually affected, it's not just Google Chrome, any Chromium browser, any Chromium based browser like Chrome, Edge, Chromium, Opera, Brave. And it's not only the desktops or endpoints that were affected, including Android platform, which was affected. So almost all of us might be victim to this particular 0 day vulnerability. Next, I think a lot of you might have already heard about this. This vulnerability is a 0 day in Microsoft Office. It was dubbed as Follina, named, I think, based on an Italian village. So what is this vulnerability? Microsoft Windows Support Diagnostic Tool, Remote Code Execution Vulnerability. This was a 0 day, and when Microsoft published information, it was not a patch Tuesday. It was a few weeks before that, but because exploitation was in place and they had to take action, exploitations were reported for US and European government personnel and a large Australian communication provider. So what are the products affected? All Microsoft Office versions starting from 2013, which is the first supported version, to the latest on Windows OS. So we are all aware of how commonly Office is used. It is known to be used by 1 billion users. And I think all of us are current users as well, especially in the enterprise environment. I would just like to share my screen and show a blog written by my team. Yes, Jagsir, you're able to see?
Yeah, Pooja, you can see your screen.
Yes. So now, what is this vulnerability? How it was exploited? It is using a protocol, MSDT protocol. It is this This is used for troubleshooting. So you would have seen the troubleshooting message whenever you face any issues, and Microsoft collects data. So the exploitation also was devised in a way such that it looked very genuine. You felt that Microsoft was actually trying to collect information. And this particular vulnerability, when it was released, our team did a research to figure out what actually was done in the attack, and all that you needed to do was have a doc file in your machine that you click. That's all, and it would give complete access of your system. It would give the access of the user who has clicked the doc file. So if you're an administrator or have administrator level access, that access is directly given to the attacker. And since the pop-up that shows up looks very much like how a Microsoft the troubleshooter tool looks, it would easily go unnotified. So what did we notice? We actually went ahead and unzipped the doc, and when we what we observed was there was a link to a malicious web page. You can see that here, and this malicious web page actually had PowerShell code that was trying to download exe to your machine and execute it. So it was successful in doing this, and it was like around 2 weeks. This vulnerability was not patched, but yes, Microsoft did immediately publish a workaround, and we and our team did take it up and ensure that it could be at least, I mean, the workaround was to disable the protocol, and we did create scripts that could do that could, I mean, it could disable the protocol for all our customers without them needing to go through the nitty gritty details. Yeah. Yeah, so now that we've discussed all the remote code execution vulnerabilities or 0 days, and it can be a little challenging to understand why not patching a vulnerability immediately is so critical. Sometimes we do not even we assume that even though it is a 0 day, it may not be us who would be under attack. Even if a advisory is published and available in public, we might assume that we are safe. But as of today, how and we would want to share with you how cyber attack is planned and how organized it is. So first, the vulnerabilities are identified. They can be identified by threat actors who themselves would want to look for vulnerabilities that can give them access to different environments. Or there might be a honeypot that is being set up by security researchers, and they see some activity going on, malicious kind of activity or something that raises suspicion, and they might actually go and dig deeper and figure out. Or it could be any security admin going through the logs within their organization and observing something malicious happening and figuring out that an attack is in place. Or it could be vendor supported security research teams, that vendor funded teams that actually sit and find vulnerabilities in the product. Now, if it is cyber security researcher, or somebody who, or a good act, I mean, not a threat actor, then they would actually go and contact the vendor. If the information is that like if the researcher has actually found an exploitation is in place, they would inform that the vendor and that to the vendor, and the vendor would immediately come up with the patch. Otherwise, the vendor does have 90 days timeline, which is a norm that is followed. Not, even though not a written rule, it is a standard that is followed. So they get the timeline for fixing the patch, testing, ensuring nothing is broken, and then both the security researcher and the vendor would go public. But if it was a threat actor who has identified this vulnerability, what they would do is exploit the vulnerability, set up either remote access tools, or set up malwares like ensure that they keep low profile so that nobody detects them, so no logs are getting written or stuff like that, and start moving laterally. So even if you have access to one of the endpoints, you would want to actually get hold of the entire environment, not stay with one single device, which is why they try to keep as low profile as possible, and start also simultaneously start looking for other environments where this same vulnerability might be present. Okay, once the advisory is published, so we might think that since this is not a 0 day, I mean, threat actors are not the people who have actually figured this issue, and it's not an active exploitation. I can delay patching a critical vulnerability. But here comes the challenge, because as soon as an advisory is published, as per recent researchers, we see that within 13 to 18 minutes, there is a lot of scanning happening to the machines that are facing the internet, and are vulnerable to whatever advisory was published from the vendor, even though an advisory is published and a patch is available. But I believe we would not have patched immediately. So threat actors are already in place trying to scan devices, and this, especially vulnerability scanning, does not require a lot of skill. You would just need to know how to run the scanning tools. Once they have identified devices that are facing the internet, what they would do is to pass it on to a sophisticated attacker. Once they've identified the vulnerable asset, they would pass it on. This attacker would be aware of the existing malwares, exploit kits, or frameworks that are present as well, may create a new malware to be undetected, because generally there are security researchers who are studying malware information, and it is being detected on a regular basis. So they might come up with new features which would help them go undetected, and then they would exploit the vulnerability, and again they would keep low profile and start a lateral movement. So what is the ideal thing to do to prevent a cyber attack? One thing is only harden your environment, ensure that only stuff that need to be exposed to the internet are open to the out to the world. And second is patch as soon as possible. Make sure you've upped your vulnerability and patch management game, and it's on spot, so that you can do it before a threat actor reaches you. Okay, going forward. Yes, another recent development that has happened in the vulnerability space is CISA has started publishing known exploited vulnerabilities. So this started from last November, and they are regularly looking for vulnerabilities that are known to be exploited. So currently there are around 789 CVEs. CISA actually goes through three set of rules to identify vulnerabilities that get into this catalog. One of them is that you need to have a CVE ID. Second is that there should be enough information to say that an exploitation has evidence is needed to say that exploitation has happened and it is being exploited at a different location. And third is remediation is possible. So vendors generally release instructions or patches for all these vulnerabilities. So if all these are met, they provide it in their catalog, so that federal agencies do need to immediately fix this within the timeline that CISA is providing. But otherwise, also to everybody else in the security industry, it is very useful to have a common place where all these exploited vulnerabilities are listed, and we can take action to reduce the space for threat actors. Oh, sorry. Yes, I would just want to show how Japsir, my screen is visible, right?
Not yet, Pooja. We can just see the slides.
Okay, just a second. Now you're able to see?
Yes, yes.
Yes, so for anybody who's joining our webinars for the first time, we would want to share that we do remediate these vulnerabilities, and we have our team that works diligently to identify malwares that are there out in the public and which are causing harm. So for example, Follina. So you can actually see that there are around 37% of devices, which is the three hosts. You can go to the host and actually fix the vulnerability. So I, just for the demo purposes, I both the 0 days, which were part of my, client side vulnerabilities. One was the Follina and the other Google Chrome, which was affecting even Edge. All the three assets are vulnerable. We can actually choose and fix them. So it's very simple to use our tool, our patch management tool, to actually to identify any malware that is out in the public and immediately attend to them. That is what I would want to share. Yes, over to you, Jagsir.
Amazing. Thanks for that overview, Pooja, for running through the vulnerabilities. So I think we are almost towards yeah, the end. We are now taking questions. If you have any questions for Viru and Pooja, please post them in your chat regarding any vulnerabilities that you want to know, or if there are any other questions that you want us to answer. Let me. We have a couple of them, Viru and Pooja. First question is, what are exploit kits? I guess Viru, you'll take that one.
Yes, Jakshir. So exploit kits are basic, as name suggests, it's exploit kits, or some people call it as exploit pack as well. And as name suggests, it's a framework that combines various exploits into one bundle, basically. So especially these exploit kits are used for automated attacks, and these exploit kits are sold in the underground. So there are various exploit kits in the underground. Some of the famous ones are rig exploit kits, angular exploit kits, and blackboard. These are the few exploit kits which are very famous. Basically, whenever there is a new exploit, uh, uh, whenever there is a new vulnerability, and they develop exploits for those things and embed that exploit into this framework. So which is called exploit kits.
Okay, great. Then we have another question. Do we detect network vulnerabilities, which you mentioned in the on the slide deck? I guess
Yeah.
Pooja, you want to take that up? Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I think Viru also mentioned that we do detect all the ones that we listed in the slides. That might be the critical ones, which is why we presented them. But we do have a team that exclusively works on a day in day out basis on network vulnerabilities and creates feed for detecting them. So yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, great. And I believe anybody who wants to test, they can sign up for a quick trial on our website. With that, I think we are towards we are about to end today's session. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send them to our email, which is info@secpod.com, and then we'll find you the right people who can help you get that information. Also, we do provide a free trial, and free trial that you can test any use cases, any vulnerabilities that you want to test, explore in your network. You can go ahead and sign up for a free trial. I would like to thank you, Viru and Pooja, for your precious time. I know you both are busy. Thanks for taking the time from busy schedule, talking about these. And I believe, I mean, we're going to come up with a lot more exciting stuff. A few things that we are planning in upcoming sessions are a few sessions going in details of how cyber attacks happen, What are the fundamentals that any team should be equipped with to handle these cyber attacks and prevent them from happening? Then there are a couple of sessions that we are going to do on live demos and simulations of such attacks, and how could these be handled in your infrastructure. Thanks, Pooja. Thanks, Viru.
Thank you, Jagsir. Thank you,
And
everyone.
Thank
and
you, Jagsir. Thank you,
thanks to
everyone.
thank you. Thanks to the amazing audience. Please keep tuned to our Bright Talk channel and our YouTube channel to get more of these talks. Thank you. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening.